What if the federal government offered you a free $1,000 every year just for saving your own money? What if freelancers, gig workers, and the self-employed finally got the same retirement perks as Congress without having to go to work for the government? And what if all of this was not just a rumor? Well, stay tuned, because whether you love him or hate him, President Trump recently signed an executive order that might just help out your bank account. But is this really something new? Well, come along and let's see what all the fuss is about. And we'll look at some exciting expansion options that are already being discussed as we check out the brand new Trump IRA. Hey everyone, this is AJ, your ace in the hole, and welcome back to the channel where we simplify personal finance and provide tips for young adults, parents, and anyone else looking for some valuable insight. And sometimes we keep an eye on the latest government legislation that affects your pocketbook so that you don't have to. And if this sounds interesting, please take a quick second to click the like and subscribe button to check out all my other helpful content just like this. To start things off, let's first look at why something like this was even needed in the first place. In 2025, it was reported that roughly 56 million Americans, an estimated half of private sector workers, have zero access to an employee-sponsored retirement plan at work, yet alone receive an employer match, with broader surveys estimating that roughly 73 million Americans are freelancing in some capacity, most of which have no access to common workplace retirement plans. The Trump IRA is specifically designed for all of these people. Now, let's take a look at what was actually announced. On April 30th, 2026, President Trump signed an executive order introducing what's being called the Trump IRA. But to be perfectly clear, this is not a new type of IRA. What this does is create access to a platform that resembles the government's current Thrift Savings Plan, or TSP, but more notably, the federal SAVER'S MATCH program enacted in the 2022 Secure 2.0 Act, that to date is only accessible to federal government employees, including civilians or service members. The TSP offers very low fees and a variety of investment options, such as U.S. or international stocks and treasury funds, as well as life cycle funds that automatically risk adjust over time, very similar to target date funds, which, if you're not familiar, I have a full video on target date funds, which I link below. The thought here is if federal workers get access to one of the best retirement systems in America, then why can't everyone else? Additionally, the executive order includes the creation of the TrumpIRA.GOV website, which is scheduled to be operational by January 1, 2027, the starting date of the new program. It's reported that this will act as the online portal for selecting an approved IRA account, as well as researching and choosing investment options, all focused on independent contractors, self-employed individuals, and other workers who do not have access to an employer-sponsored retirement plan. Individuals who contribute to a qualifying IRA and who are eligible will be entitled to a federal SAVER'S Match contribution of up to $1,000 per year. Now, let's look at how the match program works. The SAVER'S Match program, which also begins effective January 1, 2027, will replace the SAVER'S Credit program that's currently in place and will operate more like a traditional 401k match program, with money deposited directly to a qualifying IRA, as opposed to the current tax credit approach, which is basically a tax refund. The match is 50% of annual contributions up to $2,000 for a maximum of $1,000 per individual per tax year for single filers making under $20,500 and joint filers making under $41,000. I know this might not seem like a lot, but more on this in a minute. Now, the match rate does phase out at a reduced rate between $20,500 and $35,500 for single filers and between $41,000 and $71,000 for joint filers, benefiting lower income earners the most. Anyone earning above the max limits would be ineligible for the match. However, it's anticipated that these income levels will be up adjusted for inflation each year, as is with most retirement plans. I linked a handy SAVER'S Match estimator in the description below if you want to model some estimates. Now, you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? If I don't have access to an employer savings plan, I can just open a regular IRA if I choose. And that would be correct. But here are some advantages of the new program. First, and the most obvious, is the $1,000 annual match. A regular IRA doesn't provide this benefit, and the difference can be substantial over time. Here's a quick example. For the sake of simplicity, let's assume you start at age 18 with your first job and contribute just $2,000 per year, or $167 per month, which enables the full $1,000 match each year for 10 years, at which point your income exceeds the match limit. Then you just leave that amount invested until retirement. As you can see, using historical stock market performance, without the match, your account could grow to an impressive $1.8 million by the full retirement age of 67. However, with the $1,000 annual match included, your account now grows to an even more impressive $2.7 million, almost $1 million more. So ask yourself, was the match worth it? Next is how much this can help younger individuals, especially those that may have started working yet are still living at home with minimal living expenses, hence a higher savings opportunity. The Trump IRA may be perfect for these types of individuals, since they're most likely to fall within the lower income limits yet have the most opportunity to maximize contributions during their low expense years. This creates a prime opportunity for young workers and even side hustlers to take full advantage of what the Trump IRA has to offer, supercharging those early savings years when it matters most. In other words, if you're able to max out your IRA contribution limit, which in 2026 is $7,500 for individuals under 50, any additional match dollars can take you above the annual limit since they don't count towards your personal contribution limit. Now, before I move on, one important call out is that the Trump IRA is not the same as the recently announced Trump accounts for children, which also offers a free $1,000 from the federal government. However, those accounts are aimed at newborns and children without earned income. Since its inception on July 4, 2025, as a part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it's reported that over 5 million children have already claimed a Trump account. In fact, you can check out my video on the Trump accounts for kids at the link in the description as well. Now, back to the Trump IRA. Moving right along, let's look at some next steps and future expansion options that are already under discussion. As mentioned, the Secretary of the Treasury will launch the TrumpIRA.GOV website on January 1st, 2027. At that point, it's just a matter of eligible workers signing up. Now, speaking of eligibility, as mentioned, the Trump IRA is targeted at lower income individuals, which is not a bad thing, but it could present a limitation in someone achieving the full $1,000 match since an annual minimum contribution of $2,000 is required to receive that full amount, which, let's be honest, might be a little challenging to an individual making under $20,000. Albeit maybe a little more obtainable for married couples given the higher joint income limit. That said, there are already discussions underway to expand these income limits to allow participation to middle-class income levels and eventually the potential for universal access for anyone without access to an employer plan, regardless of income. Unfortunately, the lower income limitations were set by the Secure 2.0 Act legislation, therefore will require congressional approval to change, but there's already bipartisan interest in this, so stay tuned. Now, there is the question of a potential repeal of this executive order. However, this is unlikely, since retirement systems are politically sticky, and once tax incentives and accounts are established, removal is rare since millions would already be enrolled, and removing such programs that benefit so many Americans can be extremely unpopular politically. But we should all watch this very closely, as this is all very new, so we shouldn't be surprised if some modifications occur as this continues to unfold. So with that said, what's your opinion on the new Trump IRA? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Does this align with you personally and is something of interest, or will you just choose another path to your retirement savings? Let me know in the comments, as I'd love to hear what you think about this new option. And with that, I really hope this video provided some helpful insight. Now, if you would, before you go, if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with others that might also find it useful. And don't forget to check out my video on the new Trump accounts for kids here, or this video that YouTube selected just for you. And remember, it's not how much you save, it's how early you start. This is AJ, your ace in the hole. See ya.